What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Truthzilla podcast. Just want to tell you can come support the show. If you get any value out of the show, you can come give that back at truthzilla.org/donate. We got all the different donate options there. Crypto, PayPal, Venmo, all that good stuff. Also, I want to talk about our new sponsors, Truthzilla.com.
Yes.
Truthzilla.com, where we're well on our way into our detoxing the heavy metals out of our body. We talk about it all the time, all the environmental toxins, all the stuff being sprayed in the sky, all the magnetic shit in the food. Like, what's going on with that? I mean, if you want to get all that out of your body, Truthzilla.com. Advanced TRS is a super safe, awesome way to just get rid of it. Yeah.
No, we all use it. Our kids use it. I'm starting to give it to one of my animals.
Your
pets. One of my dogs. So
Truthzrs.com to learn more. Also, I want to give a big shout out to our good friend Cody Crystal.
Cody,
what? Over at Instagram. So Cody's plural, CODYS_crystals over on Instagram. He's getting his site all up to date there, but dude, go watch his live streams. He's just got the coolest gems and artifacts for sale. Dude, great friend of the show. He's been with us since day one, really helped us out when we needed it the most. And man, made life so much easier over here. So Cody, appreciate you so much. We really hope that everyone goes. If nothing else, just go follow him. Go follow Cody, man. He's the man.
His live shows are the bomb. I watch him with my 9-year-old. We'll sit there when he goes live, and my son's like, "Are you gonna bid? Are we gonna buy that? Are you gonna email him?" So
there you go. So Cody's Crystals on Instagram. So let's see. Other than that, go get yourself a Truthzilla t-shirt, truthzilla.org/shirts. And you'd be one of the cool kids. Yeah, he's got his World Economic Forum, you'll own nothing, you'll be happy shirt, which that narrative is just ramping up like crazy these days. Holy shit.
Oh my God. I showed this shirt to my dad the other day. He's like, I don't like that 666. I'm like, it's their logo.
It's their logo.
It's their logo. We just pointed it out. We just pointed it out.
Right.
Sorry. All right. Anyway, guys. Sorry. You know what I mean? All right, guys. So another heavy one. So enjoy the show.
welcome to Truthzilla. I am Megan, sitting here with Scott and Ed. Our guest tonight is one of the most prolific Redpillers in the business. He is the author of the must-read books, The Octopus of Global Control, and the new book that he co-wrote with Jeff Berwick entitled The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. He is also one of the co-founders of the Union of the Unwanted and probably one of the best podcasts out there, Macroagressions. Charlie Robinson, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. What a great introduction. That was Greg Carlwood-esque introduction too, because I feel like unworthy of that one, but thank you all for saying that. It's my it's my pleasure to do what I can to try and facilitate these conversations, wake people up, however you want to phrase it. I feel like we're like what we've gone through in the last year. It's been quite obvious that they're on an accelerated timeline, and I feel like we're kind of behind a little bit, and everyone is like sprinting off of this cliff right into the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum and all their stuff. And I feel like, we've got to do everything we can to try and wake them up. So because of that, I've got 2 podcasts. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's so amazing, man. Like, I think at the same rate, though, I feel like at the same rate, they are accelerating the narrative and accelerating these agendas. It's kind of serving to wake a lot of people up. And I feel like there are people that are rushing just as quickly, and with tools like your books, we can reach a lot of people. And like, I can't even tell you how many people we've recommended, like the Octopus to. It's just like, you guys start here. I mean, come on, like right here, and so, or just macroaggressions. Like there's so many, I think Adam from Deborah Gets Red Pilled characterizes, macroaggressions as like, it's like an evergreen. Like you can go and just start at the bottom and just work your way through. Like this is just like stuff that's relevant. It's not like, time sensitive or anything. So it's just a great journey. Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. And I love coming on and chatting with you guys, either whether we're doing it like this or whether we're doing it on the Union of the Unwanted or whatever. It's always you guys all, and then you guys bullhorning people at the Olympics trials was great.
I've been waiting for an opportunity to bust out that bullhorn, and I feel like we're looking for more opportunities now.
And we might have a little break.
Militarized vehicle, and then you're on your way.
Dude, exactly.
It's coming out of the top hatch.
Scott was born for the horn for sure. He's got the voice for it. So I want to get him a shirt that says that pretty soon.
Have you ever seen those documentaries where they're they're following Navy SEAL buds training. There's always one guy who's got a bullhorn, and he's just in a monotone voice. He's just shit talking these people just constantly, and it just never stops. You are weak, you're terrible, you should leave, give up, you're gonna drown out here in the water, our whole platoon is worse for having you. I mean, it's just like a constant, like, I felt like you guys just set up right there at the entrance, and you just berating these people in a reasonable way. I mean, you weren't being like super offensive or anything, but it was just, it's hard to get away from that when there's a dude with a bullhorn that's just louder than everybody else. There's not much you can do except get you kicked out. So I respect your drive and able to do that. And I just had my first experience with actual like activism out in person.
Nice.
A week ago today, actually, when Steve Poikinen from Slow News Day invited me to the Assange rally, actually the Denver Press Club first, and then the Assange rally after that. So I actually got a chance I wasn't bullhorning, but I did have a microphone. So it was something. It was close.
Awesome,
yeah,
man.
that's great.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was funny on that specific one. We were walking back to the car after having bullhorned the stadium, like just over the fence, trying to get it into the stadium. But we were walking back to the car, like, all right, we're done, like whatever. And so there was this group of little huddled, like college kids, like wearing their little shirts that had the emblem of the Clear Pass, the Clear Pass logo. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just an employee, like a cluster of these employees. So we're like, Ed, get the camera, hold on.
They're literally the people that are running the vaccine passport.
The vaccine passport people.
Like
just like so heartbreaking. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, so
it's a shame, because I think a lot of people are, they think they're doing the right thing with the vaccine situation. And that's the most complicated part of it, because it's like, look, you're the like enthusiastic vaccine crowd thinks that they are speeding up the process of getting everybody safe from this. And so if you think that, much like we think what we think, but if you think that about the vaccine, it's reasonable to assume that those people may be extremely enthusiastic about doing that. So that is, but what they don't realize is that they only have part of the story. They don't have the full picture. And so they're enthusiastically pushing this vaccine when they don't know what all they're doing. And it's one of those things that we're going to be right about this, unfortunately. I would love to be wrong about it all. I'll take that any day of the week, because to be wrong about it means that the things that we're talking about aren't happening or aren't going to happen. And I'm in favor of that. Yep. But unfortunately, it's like, it's not even a matter of opinion on this. It's a matter of we've compiled all this information from a variety of sources that don't wind up on the nightly news. And we can prove our case about what you've got, Dr. Judy who's been on with you guys. She's been on with us, Dr. Scott Jensen on the union shows and things like that. It's like, we've talked to real doctors. We're not just making this stuff up. I'm not watching InfoWars and getting all of my information and going, oh, I've researched everything. And neither are you guys. It's like, there's a lot that goes into this. And for those kids out there that are like going to work for these companies, or their work, like to push the vaccine, or they're 20, 21 years old and they got a job at Facebook as a content moderator or something, and they're going through saying incorrect, fact check, it's like they don't even know what they don't know. They don't even know how misguided they are, and yet they're like straight ahead, like, how fast can I save the world? And it's like, you're not saving the world, you're doing the exact opposite. And it's frustrating to me, but hopefully like the way we woke up, you never know what it is that's going to wake you up, and you never know if you're going to stay awake or if you're going to try to go back to sleep or whatever. But maybe it'll happen for them. Maybe it'll be the vaccine thing. Maybe they'll come in the future to realize, like, I was pushing this and I thought this was the right thing, and then I saw what happened to some people close to me and it changed my mind and it woke me up and red pilled me, and got, enthusiastic about supporting the opposite side of this. So I don't know. Hopefully things like that will happen. We're in a really dangerous time right now because we've got real dark forces lying to us, the media lying to us, and a bunch of gullible people that want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Taking that information, not filtering it through any sort of logic, not filtering it through the knowledge that these institutions constantly lie to everybody as just standard operating procedure. Like they don't even know that. So it's a weird, dangerous time, but hopefully we'll have an impact, we'll wake some people up to this.
Totally.
I think we all have for sure. But I would say, certainly if the SPARS scenario really kind of plays out how they role played it, right? Like people kind of wake up. I mean, they kind of stay in it's a controlled wake up. They're like, these guys are the bad guys and these guys are going to take the fall. But, I mean, the vaccine does enough damage to where you can't ignore it anymore. Right.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. I think that sadly, there's so many people who've taken this vaccine and they're being adversely affected, whether it's right away or down the road, but they're experiencing problems. And I think, it was kind of like with the mask thing where we lost some ground with masking our kids. I think where the vaccine push is going to lose ground is with these injured kids, because I think a lot of adults are willing to accept a quote unquote certain amount of casualty of, it's just a number. It's just a statistic, some people get vaccine injured, but when you start seeing kids in wheelchairs, when you start seeing kids in the hospital, little kids, the innocent among us, and unfortunately, that's going to create, just like dropping a stone in the water, that's going to impact people in those communities and all of those relations. It's going to cause people to rethink things, but unfortunately, that's what it's taking. So, and in that way, it's a horrible thing that it has to come about that way, but it is coming about that way.
It is. And it's a shame because the kid, I mean, it's much like just the traditional vaccine conversation. It's like, you can deny that for a while until you meet somebody that has been affected by it. And I know some moms, that have had the situations where it's like, well, how can you be so certain that it was the vaccine that did this to your kid? It's like, well, because my daughter spoke the day before we went in for the 18-month appointment, and mumbled and blah, blah, blah. And then from that moment on, she was nonverbal and never made eye contact with me. And
she had a fever for like 24 hours. And I mean, the stories, I mean, there's so many of these anecdotal stories that you have to face it at some point. But how many of those cases do those parents just get gaslit all to hell?
Oh yeah.
Right. Like, so it's almost, it's gotta be more, but the good thing, I mean, not the good thing, but the thing is right now, I mean, this vaccine is a complete disaster. There have never been so many deaths from a vaccine ever. I mean, we're over, like there was, I think about 10,000 in the reported to VAERS prior to this vaccine. And there's been over, I think about 6,000 just from this vaccine. So in 30 years, we had about 10,000. Now we have about 16,000. Right. So I mean, it's hard. It's hard to paint this picture any other way than like this thing is like the worst medical intervention ever put on humanity, easily.
Wow, and it's almost like we saw it coming, right?
No
we were screaming about it. We were censored. We were called conspiracy theorists. I don't want any of this stuff to come true. I want it to all, be much less. But unfortunately, the VAERS numbers that you mentioned, we all know that those are low. Those are the, by some accounts, 10 times low. When it comes to payouts through the VAERS court system, estimates are that it is 100 times, it should be 100 times more than what it is. And what it currently is 4.2 billion. So you're talking about almost $500 billion should be paid out from vaccine damage if you were actually calculating it based on the people that were damaged from it. But the VAERS court system, the numbers are all wonky. You sign non-disclosures. Nobody's allowed to talk about what they got, or else they can get clawed back for 10 times the amount that they received. So now they'll be living in their car with their autistic kid because they have no money because the pharmaceutical industry went and took that money back times 10. So you can't talk about what you experienced through the VAERS system. The reporting is totally weird and doesn't make sense. And most people don't even know that they're supposed to report to VAERS. It's run by sketchy ex-big pharma people in Health and Human Services Division, but it's a joke. It's a kangaroo court. And even still through this kangaroo court, it has been shown that they have paid out more money to settle vaccine damages than the Catholic Church has paid out to settle rape claims worldwide, just to put that in perspective. And it should be 100 times bigger than that number.
100%.
So when people are like, I can't believe that the vaccines are causing problems. You should know that, but it's suppressed. It's suppressed by the mainstream media. It's suppressed by the pharmaceutical industry, obviously. And the parents are gaslit, like you said, when they come forward, they're made to feel crazy. The doctors tell them that they're being unscientific and all this stuff. And so there's a lot of shame in that too. So you have parents that don't feel comfortable tying the autism of their children to vaccines for fear that they'll be called anti-vax. Like it's like the same as being called a white supremacist or a Trump supporter or some divisive term that's made to marginalize people and make them feel shitty about themselves. So it's a really devious tactic. It's a strange thing too, because none of the other medical issues or scientific medical procedures have this sort of stigma to it. But the vaccines, they've done a real masterful job of tying that to anybody that questions vaccines, to equating them to being like one step away from being put in a mental institution for having the audacity to question that maybe the medicine is the problem. And not even recognizing that in the United States, the medical industry is the number 3 leading cause of death behind heart disease and cancer. So it's like, it's not like we're making up some wild claim or some exaggeration. The industry is already number 3. The products they make are the reason why they're at number 3. So it is totally reasonable for us to question the new rush to market product that hasn't cleared all the testing and has this blanket immunity and approval from the government so that nothing can go wrong. It has a multi-billion-dollar free advertising campaign by the government that they stuffed in that last COVID bill, $3 billion to get the word out about vaccinations. I mean, like, it's not only is it reasonable for us to question this, it's unreasonable for everyone else to pretend like there's nothing going on here. I mean, so it's the exact backwards world. And that's what's really frustrating about it.
Yeah. Oh, the demonization, so well, like I saw the demonization of it firsthand just this last week too. So following the incident at the stadium, the Olympic trials. So there was this local, I don't know, bar, venue, whatever, was advertising this concert they were going to have in the parking lot, but it was strictly for vaccinated people only. And they will check your papers at the door, vaccine only. And so, we're part of this group, Oregonians for Medical Freedom. They were like, oh, hell no. And so started, emailing, and, we were ready. Like, we were like, get the bullhorn. We're going down there tonight. We're going down there tonight. And
call it a bomb threat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, no, here's the thing. So they ended up canceling the entire event. And really? So, yeah, just because of the emails and the phone calls that they were receiving. And so then the next day, yeah, exactly. Which, at first we're like, yes, victory. And then the next day.
It was later that day.
Well, yeah, later that day they canceled it. But then the next day, the news article came out, local news publication, whatever it was. Like, I can't remember the news publication. One of the local news stations came out with an article that said,
yes, you harassed the anti-vaxxers harassed.
That's exactly what it was. It said they canceled the event because of threats from the anti-vaxxers. and so that I found that the person who wrote the article, found him on Twitter, who's got a blue check mark on Twitter for just a little local news reporter guy, right? And he had tweeted out that article, retweeted him saying, okay, publish the threats right now. Publish the threats. I guarantee there's no threats. Nobody in there was threatening you. We were just like basically saying, man, hey, you got to take a look at this. So obviously no response, no nothing, but anyway.
No, of course not, because it's because they're lying.
Yeah.
And they have to lie. They have to spin this narrative a certain way. And so yet again, it's the dishonest media. And I will remind people, and I know that your viewers know this because I think we have a lot of overlap in our audience.
Absolutely.
And we've got like, our audience is the type of audience that isn't going to take anything we say like at face value. They're going to like, no offense to us, but like they're going to fact check us. So they know their shit. And like, you know, our audience knows that the pharmaceutical industry is responsible for 60% of the ad revenue of the nightly news. They know, they know that there is a relationship between these two entities that can't be overlooked. And so like the media, even if they wanted to, which they don't, but even if they wanted to blow the whistle on the vaccine situation, they can't. They've got too much money at stake tied in to the advertising dollars. And that is, that's something that I think a lot of people forget. They mistakenly think that like we're crazy about the mainstream media. We despise them and we know they're pathological liars. But if you're somebody that's like kind of on the indifferent, right? They don't know. They still sort of assume that there's some kind of separation between the advertisers and the news. Maybe not the network, but the news is off limits. It's got to be objective, or they assume that. And that is such an incorrect assumption to make, because the money always influences it. And there's so much of it there. And then the sort of second component to that is that people also trust their doctors. They just trust them completely, but they forget about the money relationship between the pharmaceutical industry and the doctors as well. And so as much as we see all of the commercials on our nightly news about Zymbalta and Xelgens and all these new pills that you have to take, and we see that, and it's just never ending. It's just always there. The doctors are getting, they spend 8 times as much money to market directly to the doctors than they spend to advertise to us, the consumer. So if we think we're getting inundated, the doctors are getting 8 times more of that from these pharmaceutical companies. So it's like, you watch your nightly news and you assume you're getting the truth, right? You hope they're being objective. They're not. There's too much money at stake. Then you go to your doctor and you hope your doctor is being objective, and he's not either, because he's heavily influenced by them as well. So it's like, you're going to get it from all these different directions. So then when we come out and we start saying, you should examine this, we sound crazy, because we're not doctors and we're not professionals sitting in $1 million studio at NBC giving the report. So our information sounds like we just heard it from some guy down at the train tracks or something, you know? So it's a masterful job of making themselves appear to be the absolute authority on this stuff, while making us look like we're sort of like low budget morons, because we are low budget. We don't have their financial ability to, you know, go to the studio and put the suit and tie and make, you know, get all the lights and have it all go out throughout the networks. People see that, and it just equals credibility to them. And like, they see us and we're like, you know, on Zoom and everything, and that equals less credibility for some reason. So it's funny that we have to, you know, it's like you can't just like pull your friend aside and talk to them about the vaccine. Like, you have to almost unpack the whole story of like pharmaceutical industry's relationship with the media and the media's relationship with us. And then you get to the vaccine part. And by then they're exhausted, of course. Nobody wants to get lectured to, but it's like, it's so important that we get this information out there. So we're like I want to just grab my friends and scream at them, you know, but I have to report back that, you know, my good friends from home who I had this conversation with a year ago, the summer of 2020, before the vaccine was even out, I said, listen, in the near future, the vaccine is coming. Don't get it under any circumstances. I'll tell you anything you want to know. I'll give you the long version if you want it. Just promise me you won't do it. And they all did it.
Yeah.
You know? And like, what do I say, you know?
Yep. I've had a couple of people like that too. Like, people that have been commiserating with, I've been like commiserating with them this whole last year about it. And then like, just the other day, like two different people in the last couple of weeks, like, oh, I got one of them's like, oh, I'm gonna go on this vacation to Disneyland. I'm like, well, aren't they going to make you get vaccinated? He's like, oh, I just went ahead and got the vaccine. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, whatever, dude, whatever, so
I've been working on my folks and my aunt for some time. And, I think it's strategies, I've been slipping my aunt books. I've been making my dad watch some videos of speakers that kind of speak to him, sending my mom some podcasts, I'm slowly chipping that away. They've all been vaccinated, but I still got to work on them, because hopefully antibody dependent enhancement doesn't do what it could. I hope we're wrong on that one. That is one I really hope we're wrong on, but either way, people need to know what's going on and they need to take charge. And I think even if that's coming, there's things you could do to help you. Right.
Well, it's true. And it hits really close to home because Ed and I both have vaccine injured children. As he mentioned, he has family that's been vaccinated. My oldest son has now come to me and told me that he and his fiance, who's in medical school, are pretty certain that they're going to take the vaccine or the shot. And that was obviously a huge, that was a very hard, very, very hard to have him say to me. And so now I have this whole email that I can send out to people because now I tailored something like, okay, son, I just want you to listen, if you have informed consent and you want to do it, I'm your mother. I love you no matter what. I'm always in your corner, but because I'm in your corner, watch this, listen to this doctor, listen to this interview, read this link, watch it with Shayna. I'm telling them at least do it, spend 4.5 hours of your life across the next 3 weeks and look into these things. And if I'm crazy and you think this is all garbage, then let it be garbage and you can throw it away. But at least, as your mom, and it is such a hard thing because I know really going into this again, before the vaccine was even the shot, I don't even want to say vaccine, before the shot was being introduced, we all knew that it was coming. And I was just so mortified that it might, touch someone near me, but I never imagined it would be like a child. My ex-husband's grandfather got the second dose and died right away. So it's a lot to kind of unpack. And I think it's also shifted my feelings because I know there's been within me a lot of anger and hostility toward, especially the crazy social virtue people here in town that are just in your face and condemning you. And they stand for absolutely everything that I don't stand for. And I'm watching them actively try to take my children's future away, and I've had this animosity or bitterness or anger, and the closer to home it got, it's softened my heart somewhat because it's like you say, these people, they really do believe as staunchly as I know that this is not safe and this isn't good for us. They believe that just as strongly that what the information that they have is correct. And so there starts to create, and that needs to happen, at least with me, that needs to happen because I feel like also the only way we reach people is through love. You're going to have to reach out to them through love. And that's really hard when you're being accosted, when you're being psychologically and emotionally accosted while our freedoms are being taken away. And we're, any of us that sit in front of these microphones, we get targeted and picked on, and it's rough to stand out here and do that. But also I'm finding a much softer flow in my ability to actually deal with everyone. Now that I'm kind of seeing the flip side, not that I agree, but I can kind of come at them like, okay, well, this was my son talking to me and this is someone else's son and this is someone else. And all. Honestly, before I started podcasting, I never knew about podcasts. If I didn't meet Scott 2 years ago, I never would have known maybe about podcasts. And in my mind, it would have always been like Fox News was where the real news was, right? That was what I believed. And if I hadn't had somebody else open that door for me, I would still be stuck there. And maybe as an individual, I would know because obviously I don't vaccinate my kids, especially since we had vaccine injured child many years ago. But I think that's really important to look at because not everybody has been shown the light. Not everyone's had that door open for them and they deserve to have compassion. And when and if, God forbid, something happens to them or their loved ones, they're going to need to have the same compassion and understanding that like Ed and I did when we had children that were injured and we're like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, who do we talk to about help? And your whole world is upside down. You have to be able to have that open door with people. So I kind of go back and forth between just really being so frustrated and angry and also realizing that in no way can I reach anybody from that place. And I certainly am not helping my own, just my own peace.
So
yeah, I like bullhorn. I'm sorry. You can treat them with love all you want.
And I think that's part of and one of my problems is, and probably why maybe my folks don't always take me seriously, is because I tend to not be able to talk about this stuff without talking about ending up in global enslavement, right? Like I can't talk about it with like, here's where they're going with this, right? This is what's happening. And then I sound crazy.
Because it's all connected though. It's hard not to.
I sound crazy to them. They haven't connected these dots yet. But since I think one of the things we really want to talk to you about was global warming or climate change that they've rebranded it as. And what a better time to talk about it. You just had Matt Landman on, who we've had on too, and we're just big fans of him. And we just had this huge heat wave. Like there are like record temperatures here. You know, we had
113
allegedly.
It felt like it
in Oregon here, but I will say, and I have to just preface this with, like, before that happened, you sent me some screenshots of the skies, and then I went outside, and I have never seen so many chemtrails in my life. Now,
then rainbows going sideways, like they're going horizontally up in the clouds from one cloud to another. I have like pictures that I posted on, all over social media, but it's just, I've never seen, like, I know I've seen crazy rainbows that didn't belong, or even like around the sun. Sometimes there's that orb around, but interesting.
And I mean, I mean, they're almost, you almost have to separate these issues a little bit. I mean, they're one and the same, but there is like, I mean, we know that climate change is just a made up lie that was made up many years ago. So Charlie, I know you've been one of the people that really explained this very well.
Well, I want to preface it a little bit too. Like what I was going to say is that, like, so part of, what you were saying a minute ago, Charlie, is like the whole idea of, and what you guys are just talking about how these people, it's their best intentions. They think they're doing the right thing. And I think that's a huge part of the climate change agenda as well, too. Totally. I don't think they understand, one of my biggest red pills too along the way was, like, I think it was your interview with Kev Baker, where you like laid out the whole carbon credit hustle and just like how that leads to the literal enslavement of humanity. And I was just like, holy shit, I never even thought of it that way. And so that's always stuck with me. And a couple of weeks ago, we were having amongst the three of us like a conversation about climate change, and Megan was like, we got to get someone on that can break this whole climate change thing down. I'm like, I know just the guy. So yes. So man, I don't know, man. But yeah, and we know from their own words, like they said, okay, well, next comes climate change. We're kind of ramping down COVID, and so now it's climate change time. So I don't know where we want to begin.
Yeah, it's hard to know where to begin. I did an episode of Tinfoil Hat called Paris Climate Accord. If people want to get into like a full like hour and a half straight climate change, you can go back and find Sam's show. And this was like maybe 2 years ago. Cool. Anyway, so the short, we'll do the short answer, and then we can do the long answer. The short answer is that the idea of climate change it's made up. It's not a real thing. It is, and the reason why they're using it is for a global carbon tax that they are going to impose on countries, companies, and then eventually individuals. You are going to be allotted a specific amount, country-wise, company-wise, individually. And if you exceed it or you don't exceed it, whatever you have left over can be traded on the open market. This is what Enron was doing, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, because Ken Lay was Al Gore's best friend. He taught him. They taught each other about the climate change carbon tax hustle. So what is real, and what I think most people are upset about, is pollution.
Yep.
So it's important to differentiate when having the conversation about climate change and saying climate change is fake. I always have to start it with this, with the disclaimer that pollution is real, and pollution is what most people are mad about. And I did a whole section in Controlled Demolition about pollution and about how bad it is. It's bad. We need to concern ourselves with that. Carbon in the atmosphere is negligible. A volcano can go off and put more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than all of human history combined. It's what we're doing is insignificant from a carbon standpoint. What we're doing from a pollution standpoint, like, you know, the rivers in India being so contaminated and I mean, stuff like that. Like, we have got to change our habits and modify our behavior on things like that for sure. But that's not climate change. It's something totally different. And what has happened is that these maniacs have hijacked all those things and have stolen them for their climate change narrative. So they've got you mad about all those things, which you should be mad about, but it has nothing to do with climate change. It's just, they've taken it. So what they want to do is get us to a place where we're all guilty about how much we're destroying this planet as they fly around in private jets and all that stuff and cruise around on their yachts. So, I mean, the hypocrisy is stunning and obvious and laughable. But anyway, the plan is that they're going to impose a tax on us for living, like for what our damage to the environment. And it's going to be collected by the United Nations through the World Bank and the IMF. And then it's going to be used to not do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I mean, it's that's where it stops. It's like, oh, okay. And so then you're going to use it to fix all that stuff, right? No. They're taking it. They're taking all of our money in the form of a brand new tax, a carbon tax, and for the environment. You can't argue against it, because how can you be against the environment? It's brilliant. It used to be global warming, but then the numbers went down, so they couldn't change it. So they just called it climate change. Makes it like a nice, vague term, a catch-all term that can go, if the weather goes, if temperatures go up, you're fine. If it goes down, climate change. Perfect. It's genius. But here's the thing. They gave away the plan in 1971. They wrote a book through an organization called the Club of Rome, which was started by David Rockefeller and Dr. Alexander King. Dr. Alexander King co-founded the Committee of 300. He co-founded NATO. He was prominent at the Tavistock Institute. He's a globalist scumbag, just like Rockefeller. And they started this thing called the Club of Rome, and they wrote a book in 1971 called The Limits of Growth. And in that, they gave away the plan. And I'm going to read it for you, word for word, from the book. The common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All these a common adversary in order to realize world government. It does not matter if this common enemy is a real one or one invented for the purpose.
Well, there you go.
Yep, it's totally.
It's so fascinating. I mean, that's such a classic. That's such a classic paragraph. You know what I mean? That really just, yeah.
That's it. That's the mic drop moment.
Yeah.
Because they explained that they're going to use global warming as the motivation to get everyone into a one world government. And it doesn't matter if the reasons that they use are real or invented for this purpose. And it is invented for this purpose. They're telling you exactly what they're going to do. Who is David Rockefeller? Rockefeller Foundation. Who is involved in all of this stuff? The Rockefeller Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the World Economic Forum. All of these globalist people are involved in this. It's the largest, it will be the largest transfer of wealth in human history through carbon tax. And you'll gladly pay it as your like you're tipping out your waiter to live on this planet. That's how this is how they've designed it. They will guilt you into it. Watch how they use activists like Greta, young autistic girls you can't target her. You can't criticize her or else you're the biggest asshole in the world. That's not accidental. That's by design. Yeah. So they've created this culture around the climate, and they've got all these Marxist weirdos, the young kids these days, attaching themselves to this idea of climate change as this religion almost. And they have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what the game is. They're walking right into a gigantic trap, and they have no, and it's much like the vaccine thing, because in their minds, they mean well. They're trying to save this planet. They, in theory, have longer to be on this planet than we do because they're young kids, teenagers, college age, whatever. So they get super enthusiastic about it, because forget the 80-year-olds, they're going to be dead soon anyway. These kids, they're the most important ones. They're going to have to live on this planet. So it makes sense that they're going to be eco warriors. You know, I get that. But the problem is they're being diverted. All that legitimate frustration and anger that they have shouldn't be focused on climate change. It should be focused on pollution. Yeah. But it's not, because that's not the agenda. The agenda is get them into a carbon tax, and you've got to get them into the carbon tax. So they don't mention pollution. They only talk about global warming. They talk about numbers going up and down, and everyone goes, oh, well, the scientists are saying that the numbers. I'm glad we just went through 2020. Now you know what paid science looks like. It's fresh in your mind. So now just take that same Fauci style paid science thinking that you watched through 2020 with all these doctors lined up to say crazy shit, and just understand that the climate scientists are the same batch of people.
Yep. Absolutely.
Same fuckery going on with the numbers and with the hysteria, and then the media. And then, like you mentioned earlier, Project Veritas doing the behind the scenes at CNN. And they say, yeah, you know, we're kind of done with Biden. We're really going to pivot to climate change. Get ready for it, because here it comes. Oh, and here's the worst part about it all. It's never going away. Yeah. You're going to hear about this for the rest till the day you die. Yep. You're never going to give this thing up. It's going to be the biggest moneymaker in the history of money making. Think about it. They're selling you an allowance on something invisible. It's fucking genius. It is. It really They're selling you an allowance on carbon that they don't own or control or can fix or any of this, but they've just decided they're going to sell you a license for it. And if you exceed it, then they're going to tax the shit out of you. It's like, why the earth as bait to lure all these people into a carbon tax, to just take all of their money, as much of their money as you can, put them in smart cities. Now, I mean, it's not just about taxes. It's about restrictions to movement and food. Can't have, global warming, can't have cows anymore. We've already seen that. We're watching it happen. It's terrifying.
So scary.
Yeah. And in order for this to be, a position where you get charged every time you flush the toilet and all this stuff, yes, the smart cities need to roll out. It all rolls into the Agenda 21. Rosa Corey did a lot of great work on Agenda 21. Rest in peace. I heard she just passed, a couple of months ago. But her thing saying about, her assertion that, part of this agenda is to, categorize, what is it, like every tree, everything and plant, and every single car and every single thing on the planet, so that it can be categorized and inventoried, and therefore, controlled and taxed. And it's just so frustrating. So in that quote too, it says all these dangers are caused by human intervention, right? The global warming, the water shortages. Are they then implying that, well, I know kind of what they're implying, but can we extrapolate maybe that these are going to be artificial scarcities, for example, like the water shortages or the power grid failures. Why is it all of a sudden that like we have a difficult time providing power to places now all of a sudden?
It's not like summer is on the calendar or anything.
Yeah. Well, why is this all of a sudden a big thing? It could possibly be agenda. Are we expecting like a climate Pearl Harbor? Like what the hell would that look like? You know what I mean? Like they needed a Pearl Harbor, a new Pearl Harbor to usher in the last 9/11, and so now we expecting some sort of climate Pearl Harbor. I think that's a big question in everybody's mind is like, okay, we know the false flag's coming, how's it going to look? I don't know.
Cyber attack.
I think you are right on it. I don't know what it would look like, but it'll be fake. And you asked about the agendas, like would they create artificial shortages? Absolutely, they do it all the time. If it's just a matter of how long do they want to keep them going. I mean, they could starve us to death if they wanted to. If that was the real reason for Deagle's decrease in population is starvation, if that was really it, they could do that with a supply chain, global grid down, power down situation and just starve everybody out. 6 months, almost everybody'd be gone.
Certainly Klaus Schwab is warning of that cyber attack, right? So
right. I mean, that is unfortunately a terrifying concept, but it's something we can consider. But let's also remember that these guys are depopulationists. They want a bunch of people dead. So they have the opportunity to roll that agenda into this, through supply chain shortages or actually manufacturing these viruses. I mean, like when you start to talk to people about this, and this is the first time they've heard of it, you sound certifiably insane, of course. But as you start to understand how these people work, we're not speculating that they are eugenicists. They write books with their own names attached to them about their desires to reduce the world's population, how they would go about it, which virus they think is the best and what it would do. I mean, this is not a secret. This is, they openly talk about this. So you've got all of these agendas happening simultaneously, but just, it's important for people to remember that the people running the show, one of the core principles that they have is that they think that there are far too many of us on their planet. And so everything that they do has a hint of that in it. It's like they either don't respect us, which is obvious, or if they can find a way to also kill a bunch of us at the same time, they're totally fine with that as well. And that catches people off guard because we just would never think like that. But these people, you have to think like they think, or you at least have to understand what they want. And then you can start to piece together how they think. Like they want fewer people on the planet. They talk openly about that. So when you get these pandemics and that seem a little fishy and like there's advanced knowledge and all that stuff, once again, it's reasonable for us to tie that back to these people and start saying, have we questioned Bill Gates? Have we questioned Anthony Fauci? Why are these guys talking about this stuff years in advance? So everything kind of connects together. And what you find is it's just the same group that's making these things happen, whether it's the climate change things or the engineered pandemics and things like that. It's the same group. They've got multiple simulations going on at the same time. And so it's like tonight we're going to talk about climate change and everything, but we could do a show tomorrow night about some other totally different topic, but it'd be the same people involved. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Absolutely.
We talk about like the like privatization of war, and it would be like these guys again.
I think
they just keep showing up.
I think on the most recent episodes of James Corbett, he's talking about how him and Brock West do like a 1 degree of separation from like the World Economic Forum. Like you look up any agenda, any one of these nefarious agendas, companies, organizations, anything, and you can look it up, and within 1 degree, you have somebody directly tied to the World Economic Forum and stuff like that. It's like, it's hilarious. It's like, doesn't even matter. But you're a conspiracy theorist. For suggesting this, that there's some sort of coordination going on. I mean, it's like
these people theoretically are smart and rich and experienced and what makes you think that they wouldn't be coordinating with one another? It would be insane for them not to be coordinating with one another. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, you conspiracy theorists think that these people are all plotting against. They are. They are plotting against America. Of course they are. That's what Davos is. That's where they go to plot. It's
they just call it philanthropy.
Oh,
right.
Yes,
That's just what they do.
Well, it's not an overwhelming number of people. And I think that's the thing is that, when you're watching the news, you're watching CNN, you get this feeling that it's like the wide world and there's so many hands and it's two handfuls of people. It's not that many people and they're all back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
And they sit on interlocking boards of directors.
Yeah.
Right.
So it shrinks. You don't have to have, there's this belief that you've got to have like millions of people in on the whole big scam. And that's really not the case. If you have the right people that control these mega corporations or sit on the boards of directors, you can get a lot done if you know the right pressure points, if you know the right people, if you've got so that's why guys like Henry Kissinger are extremely valuable to the system, because that's a guy that knows how to like connect everybody all at once and get something done quickly. You see more and more of these guys turn up over and over again, like Eric Schmidt and Elon Musk too, which I started off really liking him.
We just were talking about him right before we started rolling.
I gotta say, man, he's giving me globalist vibes. And
I think he's totally corrupt.
I've got some big questions.
Yeah, totally.
But we're starting to see a new batch of these Kissinger type political swamp monster guys. And of course, as of the taping of this show today, we found out Donald Rumsfeld died.
I'm just gonna say,
and that's a perfect example of a guy who is paid for his connections. So as an example, I wrote about him in the Octopus book. I reserve a special place in my heart for Donald Rumsfeld. The amount of hatred I have for this scumbag, it's hard to really put into words. But one of the things that he did was he was brought in by, there's a company called GD Searle who tried to get NutraSweet approved by the FDA, and they couldn't do it. And the reason why they couldn't do it was because it was giving half of the lab rats massive tumors, and it wasn't getting approved because it was super dangerous. So the company kept trying over and over again. They even started trying to like bribe people, and they got themselves into a situation where the judge said, listen, I'm one step away from throwing you people. Not only are we rejecting this application for approval of this product, but I'm about to ask for you guys to be prosecuted for what you're doing. So this company's like, shit, we've invested all this money in this NutraSweet product, and they can't get it passed. So what do? They hired Donald Rumsfeld to be their CEO. He's straight out of Nixon, and this is like the early 80s. And he knows nothing about the pharmaceutical industry or the food industry, whatever. I don't know. It's kind of sort of an in-between fake sugar. I don't know. It's an in-between category there. Totally. But I would assume not Donald Rumsfeld area of expertise, as he just came out of being Secretary of Defense, or was it Secretary of State? I forget. But anyway, as soon as he became their CEO, the FDA approved it, and he walked away with $13 million for that. Of course. Wow. So this is the world in which we live in. So when people are like, oh, you guys are conspiracy theorists talking about all these things that don't exist, just remember that there are guys like Donald Rumsfeld out there that make these deals happen, these crazy, crooked deals in broad daylight. And Kissinger, the same thing, man. I put these guys in the same category. They're committing like conspiracy in broad daylight on national television, and nobody calls them out for it because they're like, that's the deep state, that's the power, that's the real power there. is guys like that can get shit done.
Yep.
Donald Rumsfeld was a super powerful dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of, man, we could do a whole episode on him and all that nonsense. I think he actually wrote a couple books that really highlighted him, dude. So,
bad guy.
Yeah, man. And like all these things are happening, you know, regardless of whether it's, you know, cyber attacks, grid down, you know, whatever, rolling blackouts, civil war, next pandemic, like it really all leads to more scarcity. And I feel like wherever we're headed, you know, I feel like food shortage, that's going to be like number one. That's going to be number one. You know, I feel like, you know, having that secured is really big. That's something that we've been doing a lot on our end, you know, like just getting storable foods and stuff. Like we got involved with this local gleaning outfit, which is kind of like a food bank type deal, and just doing like some skill trade or like work trades for like exchange for food and just like stockpiling. I know you do like what, My Patriot Supply.
Yep.
/ macro. Is that it?
Prepare with macroaggressions.com. Yeah,
go.
it takes you to it's like my own little personal page for My Patriot Supply. Yeah, it's like,
but it's like that's where we're headed. I'm convinced.
Yeah,
I'm convinced.
Certainly.
You know.
Yeah, and it sucks because the minute you start actually buying stuff like that and start, you know, it's an admission to yourself that you know it's coming.
Yeah.
And you feel like it's tough. It's tough to do it because if you don't buy it, then it's like it's not real still, you know? And so you can almost kind of pretend that it's not going to happen. But when you buy it, it really is just an insurance policy. It's one that you hope you never use. But unfortunately, you know, we've got these people, I feel like they're desperate. You know, this World Economic Forum group. I don't think that the COVID situation went according to plan for them. And I think that they maybe feel like it's now or never for their agenda. And if I were in their shoes and I was feeling desperate, it might be time to break out like the supply chain situations or take the power grid down. You know, you could really create some major chaos there. So that's the reason why I think this stuff is not just possible, but likely, not because it should happen, but because these people are so deranged that they feel like they maybe need to make it happen, or else we're going to figure them all out. You know, we're going to figure out their plan and they're going to get, you know, chased away. But, you know, because that is what happens in the SPARS pandemic document, you know, these Fauci's and Gates characters and everything, they do get run out of town at some point, but that doesn't do us much good. What you just run, you know, we're still in a horrible situation. So hopefully these maniacs don't resort to that. But unfortunately, like, what are we going to do? We're sort of just like at the mercy of waiting for, I mean, they're telling us with Cyber Polygon that it's going to happen. So it's like, how do we stop them from doing it? Yeah. I guess just talking about it. Yeah. I really am stumped on this one.
I mean, we're involved in Freedom Cells,
baby.
And I mean, I've always said, you know, fuck Build Back Better, build your own better, right? Like, we're trying to hit this on all fronts. So, I mean, we're connected with a lot of the different local groups that are standing up in different ways. Some of them are going to try to go through the courts, but I mean, I think I put most of my eggs in a basket of like, let's just create our own world where we're as less dependent on the system as possible, right? Because the system, it looks like it's going down at best. I mean, it's not helping us at this point, right? So it's certainly they're kind of surrounding us, right? Like we're becoming the targets of that system anyway. So,
well, we know for sure there's no lines that these people won't cross. They don't have boundaries and everything is completely self-serving. And what I say all the time, and what we've all said, is that it's so hard for regular people who have empathetic qualities to actually perceive and understand that other people are bereft of that. They don't have a connection to their soul. What brings them pleasure is power and domination and control and death and sickness and all of these things. That's what they enjoy. And it's hard for those of us who catch the mosquito hawks and the spiders on our wall and let them go outside because we don't want to hurt something. It's hard for us to understand that not only could someone feel that way I mean, I think that, we hear like, crimes of passion where, wife shoots husband, or husband stabs wife, and you're like, oh well, there must have been cheating going on. People try to like put logic to it, but to put the kind of logic that those of us at this table live by and possess, and to try to blanket somebody who is not the same on the inside, that's not the same kind of a spiritual creature, and to try to understand them through us is the wrong way to do that. Because we have boundaries, we have lines, we have things that stop us, things within our nature that keep us from harming others, at least hopefully to a certain extent. And hopefully the older we get, the better we become at that. That's not the drive of these people. And so all the things that we can think that they possibly could or would do to control and dominate us, bend us to their will, are the things that we can instinctively and comfortably prepare for, even though we don't want to face that eventuality, because we know it's an eventuality.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
I mean, I think though, the answer to that, and I think they've done masterfully so well of like shaping history so people don't really know history. Because if you really look at the history of the Rockefellers, they would all be locked up right now, right? Mm-hmm. Like we would not let these people like control the strings behind the
all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting empowered to maybe do some accountability. But I have another theory I want to run by you too, Charlie. So we were talking to Billy Ray Valentine last week, and then it's kind of came up, and it was like, okay, so this is right after the John McAfee thing happened. After it, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but like allegedly he got killed, or allegedly he committed suicide, all this and that. But anyway, so as we saw the COVID situation play out, one of the things that needed to happen was that a very outspoken person against Fauci, and who could have probably exposed the whole PCR thing, needed to disappear. Now, I know we don't have any evidence about Carrie Mullis, whether that was any foul play or not. Just very, that obviously gets your hair standing up at the timeliness of his death, right? And so in thinking in those terms, seeing at how, like, say, John McAfee, a very outspoken person, who seems to be an enemy of the state, probably needed to go before any sort of like cyber thing that's about to happen gets rolled out. Like, what are your thoughts? Do you see any parallels there? Huh? Yeah. So do you think? I think so. My theory is that McAfee got Carrie Mullis. McAfee didn't Carrie Mullis himself. I don't know.
You know what? That might be the best explanation I've heard so far, actually, because I was talking to Sean Atwood about it actually this morning, about this, because we always have conversations about Epstein related stuff. And I said, when Epstein died, I knew, I didn't think he killed himself, obviously. I believed that he was smuggled out, right? That's what I believed. And then I talked to Sean Atwood about it, and Sean said, no. He says, let me explain how these organizations work. Like, cause I don't know if you know Sean did 7 years in prison for drug trafficking.
Ecstasy,
and he said, one of his cellmates was a mafioso guy for like years and years, like a boss. And so he got the lowdown on how all that stuff works. And he says, listen, with these organizations, they wouldn't rescue you out of there, change your face, put you on an island and change your name and give you a bank account. That would be rewarding failure. You got caught. You might be talking. They wouldn't do that. He says, what they do is they don't take chances. They go in and they whack the guy. And I said, okay, that actually made me believe that Epstein was murdered and didn't get smuggled out. He knows if the US gets their hands on him, he's a dead man.
Yeah.
He know the minute he got picked up by Spanish police, he had to be thinking, how do I get the fuck out of here?
Yep.
Okay. So there's all those things that make me think, plus he's a smart, cunning, very skillful guy at making things happen, either through looking at them an interesting way or having the resources to do it. And yes, he had this totally weird personal life that was fucking bizarre, but he's the type of guy that could pull it off. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to say that there's a 10% chance that happened or what. I'm just saying that if ever there was a guy that would have been thinking about it, had the financial capacity to do that, have the, you know, the resources and the people in place, the kind of knowing the right sketchy people, I got to think John McAfee would know those people, you know, like over the years. And he just seems like the type of guy that would be like, I got to get out here. And then the extradition comes down and he says, to the head of the Spanish prison, it's now or never, baby. You want the money or not?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's quite the trickster too, you know, like just his escape. I heard his stories, like escaping international borders or whatever it was. Like
he's done it. He's escaped from Belize. I mean, he's done this shit before. So I hope that's the case. I mean, I think more than likely somebody whacked him, but and if that is the case, that he was whacked, the logic behind that would be that he would be a voice that would be listened to in a future cyber attack.
Exactly.
So I think that I think that we'll see. We'll see, right?
We'll see. It lends credibility to that eventuality, I would say. Like,
but I think that's a logical thing. I mean, it's evil and conniving and despicable, but it's exactly what would happen, right? I mean, we've seen microbiologists get whacked, and we've seen all kinds of crazy things like that. To whack a guy like McAfee or to whack a guy like Kerry Mullis, I mean, have you not seen the big pharma list of dead people surrounded to, you know, connected to the pharmaceutical industry?
Absolutely.
Under mysterious circumstances. Like, I mean, look, these people are not messing around.
No.
These are some dangerous people that are playing a totally different game than everybody else. So it's like we're talking about it and witnessing it and everything, but like it is no joke. What goes down in these things. I mean, a guy like McAfee, if what he said in those interviews is true about having 31 plus terabytes of information about all these, and it's going to come out in some trigger, I don't know, should it have come out already? I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I don't know how it's set up. I wouldn't pretend to, but if that information does come out, then what? You know, like what sort of chaos does that create? And if you like Cliff High, like I do, and get into his stuff, man, he says like, expect chaos, like the second part of this year when like truths are revealed and stuff like that, you know, like real, like hardcore stuff. That could be it.
Yep. May the truth come out if the heavens fall, or whatever it goes. Yep. Man, right on. Well, shoot, man, Charlie. Man, we went all over the place, man. We were gonna this is so great. I love it so much. Charlie, tell the people where they can find it.
You can find my podcast, Macroagressions, wherever podcasts are served, and also in video format on David Icke's platform, Iconic, on Rokfin, over there with you guys on Odyssey. And I won't be on YouTube for long now after getting my second strike. So I'm sure they'll just concoct some things. So just look for me on everyone just go to Rokfin. That's the best place. I'm putting everything that I've got over there. And if you want, my website is the Octopus of Global Control.com.
Awesome. Charlie, thank you so much, man.
Thank
Such
you.
An honor.
Thanks, guys.
I can't thank you enough, man. Like so much of our journey. I remember like when we recorded our first episode, like I was like already like in my head, I was like, I'm like Mr. Podcaster. I'm gonna reach out to Charlie. I sent you a little Facebook messenger. I'm like, we started a podcast. We got to have you on someday. And you're all like, yeah, someday we'll have you on. And I know it's your second round with us here, man, but I got to tell you, man, like you've been such a huge inspiration for us on this journey. And just so grateful for everything and all the work that you've done over the years. It just, you know, the ripple effect is just, you know, pretty immense at this point. So.
Well, I certainly do appreciate that. It's very humbling. I'm just trying to make I'm of all this insanity. Exactly. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's connecting with people. I'm happy about that. I wish we could connect about I've always joked, like, I wish we could talk football. I wish I was doing a football podcast instead, because then we weren't dealing with all these things. But
Here we are.
it's just, I feel compelled to talk about it and try and make people aware of it. I don't know if it's going to change anything, but if it at the least, it will wake people up and make them see what is coming our way, and make some decisions on how to get yourself out of the way, you and your family, or whoever you can get a hold of, or whoever will listen to you. And I try to not sound crazy, which is tough, but I try because this stuff makes me insane.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just want to grab people and just go, look at this. Can't you see?
Just do the gentle shake, the fast one, the really
like an airplane, get a hold of yourself. I just want to shake the shit out of people and just be like, just look, please, just look at some of this stuff, so
just want to pull the film off their brain.
Yeah.
Just open up that third eye just a little bit, like just look, like don't just look, see, like allow yourself to see for just a moment. And then if you hate it, if all
back.
of this that's it, you can close your eyes again.
Yeah. And I woke up and I can't go back to bed. It just seems too important to try and, try to explain what I can to the people that I connect with. So it's fun. It's always fun to talk to you guys and on the Union of the Unwanted as well. And of course you guys always have a standing invitation there. So
cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank
Charlie.
you so much.
Thanks,
Have a good night.
Have a
Bye,
wonderful
guys.
evening.
Peace.
see you.